Men are in charge of women by right of what Allah has given one over the other and what they spend for maintenance from their wealth.
This is the part 2 of Former Muslim Exposes Islam. So, to get a better understanding of this video, we advise you to watch the part 1 first before watching this. But if you have already, you can go right into it. And as always, don't forget to share this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already.
So righteous women are devoutly obedient, guarding in the husband's absence what Allah would have them guard. But those wives from whom you fear arrogance, first advise them, then if they persist, forsake them in bed, and finally strike them or beat them. But if they obey you once more, seek no means against them. Indeed, Allah is ever exalted and grand. Now, a common response to this is that the word hit there or beat there really means to hit lightly. I actually had the chance when in the Middle East to ask this exact question to a Muslim imam, and he demonstrated the way he recommended that men punish their wives. Here's a small clip of that conversation.
How can I strike her? He say, you bring this, you know what we call this? Give me your hand. I slap you with this. Don't do these mistakes. Okay? This is the teaching of the Prophet Muhammad. Now you understand.
By the way, this title here is very misleading. When you say punish, what comes to mind is to treat harshly and unfairly, or to handle or beat severely. We know Islam is against severe beating. This is why the Prophet, upon him be peace, categorically made it clear, saying, I enjoin good treatment of women, for they are prisoners with you, and you have no right to treat them otherwise unless they commit clear indecency. If they do that, then forsake them in their beds and hit them, but without causing injury or leaving a mark. Again, without causing injury or leaving a mark. Atta said, I said to bin Abbas, what kind of hitting that is not harsh? He said, hitting with siwak and the like. A siwak is a small stick or twig used for cleaning the teeth. This is why the sheikh in the video used a siwak to demonstrate to what extent men are allowed to hit their wives, causing no injury or leaving a mark. Despite knowing all this, he still titled his video as Muslim Man Shows How He Punishes His Wife, as if to say this man is just one amongst other Muslim men demonstrating how they beat their wives severely. This is how insincere Islamophobes can be. The right thing to do is to title it the way it is, how Islam teaches men to discipline their wives when they commit clear indecency. When you say to discipline, what comes to mind is totally contrary to punishment. To discipline is to use a systematic method of obtaining obedience, or to put in place a set of rules regulating behavior. This is why the Quran instructed men to first advise their wives. If that doesn't work, then they should forsake them in bed. If that still doesn't work in regulating their behavior, then they should hit or beat them mildly, which entails not causing injury or leaving a mark.
But I actually also came across a verse in Sahih Muslim Book 4 Hadith 21:27, where Aisha reported, quote, I have not seen any women suffering as much as believing women. Look, her skin is greener than her clothes. So here is Aisha, who, by the way, was 6 years old when Muhammad married her, 9 years old when he consummated that marriage with her, which we could have a whole other video just on that. But here's Aisha admitting that Muslim women are green with bruises. So all I'm saying is please look at this topic yourself. Don't take my word for it.
First, before we respond to the hadith, which will be a voice by Abdul himself, let's quickly respond to these subtle accusations against the Prophet marrying Aisha at age 6, as if he did something wrong and unheard of. I must say this is one of the best and at the same time dumbest argument Islamophobes throw out there. Despite it being debunked again and again, they keep bringing it up. For starters, this was an acceptable phenomenon before, during, and after the lifetime of the Prophet. A lot of Islamophobes either don't know this, or they deliberately hide it from their audience. Before Muhammad, Aisha was betrothed to someone named Jubair bin Mut'im. It was annulled due to religious difference. Aisha is a Muslim, and Jubair isn't. She was then betrothed to Muhammad on the suggestion of a woman called Khawla bint Hakim. The marriage wasn't just from the blues. Khawla actually suggested her to Muhammad upon him be peace, after which he married her age 6, and he waited additional 3 years plus before consummating the marriage. That 3 years could have been more if her parents never thought she was mature enough to consummate her marriage with the Prophet. They themselves, without any pressure, prepared Aisha and sent her to her husband's house. The cherry on the cake is, Aisha never regretted marrying the Prophet at any point in her 67 years of life on earth. In fact, Islamophobes will say, Aisha is a jealous woman, which proves nothing but her love for him.
You mean if I show you Aisha complaining that if she had a choice, she would keep Muhammad to herself? What was Aisha saying?
Some may still argue, but that doesn't mean it's okay to consummate marriage with an underage. Come on, guys, where do we get our objective morality from? Do we get it from people who are not consistent and can easily be influenced depending on who is on power? Till this very age in the United States, the age for consent for women changes more than a mother changes the diaper of her baby, although exaggerated, but that's the reality in the United States. It will shock you that in Delaware, the age of consent was 10 years until 1871, when it was lowered to 7 years. How many of you knew this? Under the 1871 law, the penalty for sex with a girl below the age of consent was death. In 1880, 37 states set the age of consent at 10 years, 10 states set an age of consent at 12 years, and Delaware had an age of consent of 7 years. But today, it looks like this. As Muslims, we get our morality from God and not humans. It is okay to marry at whatever age as long as it is for the sole interest of the individual involved. However, you cannot consummate the marriage until the person in question is mature and ready. The marriage of Aisha to the Prophet upon him be peace, and the time she consummated the marriage is a perfect example.
Going back to the hadith this man quoted, this hadith is not found in Sahih al-Muslim. Okay, it is found in Sahih al-Bukhari. Perhaps it's a mistake from him. So this hadith is in Sahih al-Bukhari 58-25, where Aisha was complaining to the Prophet ﷺ regarding a woman that came to complain to her regarding her husband. So Islamophobes, what they do is they quote this hadith and they quote it halfway, trying to tell us that the companions themselves understood Quran 4:34 that it says you can beat your wife. So they take advantage of that. They beat their wife severely. I remember the Prophet ﷺ in his farewell pilgrimage said that women are like prisoners to you. So be good to them and do not treat them otherwise except they commit clear indecency. Then you can hit them or beat them without causing injury or leaving a mark. So they skip all this hadith, then they bring this hadith where Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her, was complaining to the Prophet ﷺ, look at her skin is greener than her clothes. Okay, so we're going to go into this hadith, would read the hadith in context, I would see if what this man is saying is true or not. Remember, he brought two allegations. He said the first one is Aisha said that she's not seen a woman suffer as much as a believing woman. It's even funny because if Aisha really meant that, she would have left Islam. Why would she remain a Muslim till she died at age 67? The woman in question that came to complain to the Prophet ﷺ would have left Islam, but that's not the case. Secondly, he said Aisha admitted that Muslim women are green with bruises. Where did the word bruises come in the hadith? We're going to be looking at all this inshallah. So we're going to the Arabic hadith, okay? Before we go back to the translation, inshallah, I just want us to look at the Arabic so we would see that some of these things claimed that is in the hadith is actually not in the hadith. So here we have حدثنا Muhammad bin Bashar. Muhammad bin Bashar informed us. حدثنا Abdul Wahhab informed us. أخبرنا Ayyub informed us. And Ikrimah. So these are the chains of narration. So an Ikrimah, from Ikrimah, أن رفاعة طلق امرأته, he divorced his wife. فتزوجها عبد الرحمن. Then Abdul Rahman married her. Abdul Rahman bin Zubair al-Qurazi. So this man married her. قالت Aisha said وعليها خمار أخضر. Upon her is a green cloth. فشكت إليها. So this woman, Rifa, the wife of Rifa, the ex-wife of Rifa, complained to Aisha وأرتها خضرة بجلدها, and she showed Aisha a spot in her skin that is green. فلما جاء رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. So when the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم came, now it's time to report to the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. But the narrator of this hadith made something very clever. And this is what Islamophobes skip. He said, وَالنِّسَاءُ يَنْصُرُ بَعْضُهُنَّ بَعْضًا. And it is the habit of women to assist one another. We're talking about the wife of the Prophet ﷺ, Aisha. Aisha wants to gain the sympathy of the Prophet, her husband, so he could grant this woman what she wants. What does she want? We'll see that inshallah in the hadith. And what did Aisha tell the Prophet ﷺ? Remember, this narrator is trying to give us a background of what women do. Then, even in fact, till this very day, women are known to assist one another. So what did Aisha tell the Prophet ﷺ? قالت Aisha said, ما رأيت مثل ما يلقى المؤمنات. I have not seen any woman suffer as much as the believing women. Or I have not seen any woman face hardship as much as the believing women. لجلدها أشد خضرة من ثوبها. Her skin is greener than her clothes. So Aisha said this to gain the sympathy of the Prophet ﷺ. But then something happened, something interesting happened. قال وسمع أنها قد أتت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Now Abdul Rahman, the current husband of this woman, heard that his wife had gone to meet the Prophet ﷺ. So immediately, being a wise man, this is what he did. فَجَاءَ وَمَعَهُ ابْنَانِ. He also came to the Prophet ﷺ, and together with him are two of his sons, لَهُ مِنْ غَيْرِهَا, from his wife, other than this woman that came to complain to the Prophet ﷺ. قالت والله, she said, by Allah, مَا لِي إِلَيْهِ مِنْ ذَنْبٍ, I have done no wrong to this man. إِلَّا أَنَّ مَا مَعَهُ لَيْسَ بِعَغْنَى أَنِّي مِنْ هَذِهِ وَأَخَذَتْ هُدْبَةً مِنْ ثَوْبِهَا. Except that this man is impotent, and he is as useless to me as she took a portion of her clothes. As this man is as useless to me as this. فَقَالَ كَذَّبَتْ وَاللَّهِ. Then Abdul Rahman, the current husband of this woman, said, كَذَّبَتْ وَاللَّهِ, I swear by Allah, she has told a lie. Ya Rasulullah, O the Prophet ﷺ, إِنِّي لَأَنْفُضُهَا نَفْضَ الْأَدِيمِ, I am very strong, I can satisfy her. وَلَكِنَّهَا نَاشِزٌ تُرِيدُ رِفَاعًا, except that she's stubborn or she's disobedient. She wants to go back to Rifah. In other words, this man is seeking divorce. He wants to go back to Rifah. This man already knew what this woman wants. That's the reason why he brought his two sons. It's not because she's been beaten at home and she's coming to complain to the Prophet ﷺ. In fact, if she's been beaten at home, that would be a perfect reason for the Prophet ﷺ to separate them. But that's not the case. So as you can see, the green spot in her skin is totally unrelated to him beating her. فَقَالَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم, the Prophet ﷺ said, فَإِنْ كَانَ ذَلِكَ, if that's the case, لَمْ تَحِلِّي لَهُ, then she is not permissible to Rifah. Now she's not complaining, no, that's not the case, I don't want to go back to Rifah. She knew this is the case. She wants to go back to Rifah. She didn't object to the Prophet ﷺ. أَوْ لَمْ تَصْلُحِي لَهُ, or she's not permissible to him. حَتَّى يَذُوقَ مِنْ عُسَيْلَتِكَ, until Abdul Rahman al-Qurazi has his way with you. In other words, until he sleeps with you. You can't go back to Rifah. قَالَ وَأَبْصَرَ مَعَهُ بْنَيْنِ فَقَالَ, he said, وَأَبْصَرَ مَعَهُ, and he saw, the Prophet ﷺ saw Ma'a together with Abdul Rahman ibn Nayn, two of his sons. فَقَالَ, he said, بَنُوكَ هَؤُلَاء, are these your sons? قَالَ نَعَمْ, he said, yes. قَالَ هَذَا الَّذِي تَزْعُمِينَ مَا تَزْعُمِينَ, the Prophet ﷺ said, you claimed what you claimed. In other words, referring to the woman, you claimed he is impotent. What are we seeing? What is this I'm seeing? فَوَاللَّهِ, I swear by Allah, لَهُمْ أَشْبَهُ بِهِ, they resemble him, مِنَ الْغُرَابِ بِالْغُرَابِ, as a crow resembles a crow. So now let's quickly go back to the translations here. I would see that it's a bit different from what is actually in the Arabic text. Here Aisha said that the lady came wearing a green veil. Now you can see this is in parentheses, and complained to Aisha of her husband, and showed her a green spot on her skin caused by beating. Where did you get this from? The woman never said the man beats her. So now this is what the Islamophobes use and say, this is the case, the companions beat their wife, and that's the reason why this man is saying, Aisha is admitting that Muslim women are green with bruises. No one has suffered as much as the Muslim women. You would see this, common with Islamophobes. Always see them, you see them quoting this. It's a lie. And this man, and they would never tell you that the narrator of the hadith said it was the habit of ladies to support each other. So inshallah, we'll keep debunking these guys. As long as they bring this hadith or something that looks like this, we'll keep debunking them until they get tired. May Allah grant us more understanding.
This really is the tip of the iceberg. Lastly, look at this graph from the UN Women, from UNICEF, showing the extent to which the mistreatment of women has been accepted even by women in Muslim countries around the world. So as you're looking at this graph, let me just say one more time that the aim of this video is not to insult or disrespect or disparage any Muslim people, any Muslim fellow human beings. Is not.
It's funny how these Islamophobes insult Islam and Muslims and then turn around and say, well, this is not to insult Muslims. Anyways, if this graph was to show the extent to which the mistreatment of women has been accepted even by Muslim women around the world, then you should take a bow and leave YouTube. You just shot yourself by yourself. South Sudan, for example, is an overwhelming Christian majority country. How did it make it to the graph? It has only 6.2% Muslims in the country. What does that tell you? Do we now say Christians accept mistreatment of women? For the records, Islam forbids the mistreatment of women, as the Prophet, upon him be peace, clearly says, I enjoin good treatment of women, for they are prisoners with you, and you have no right to treat them otherwise. Secondly, the graph says domestic violence. I can assure you that no woman who knows what domestic violence is will accept it. Domestic violence, according to Merriam-Webster dictionary, is the inflicting of injury by one family family or household member on another. Islam is 100% against this. What Muslim women are okay with is the way Islam has asked Muslim men to treat their wives, just as the Sheikh showed this Islamophobe, the use of a twig or siwak causing no injury or leaving a mark. Our women see this is an acceptable way to discipline them when they commit clear indecency. No wonder the rate of acceptance is quite high. However, that's not a good news to the Western world. They consider this act of mercy a domestic violence against Muslim women. How is that the case when we know what domestic violence means? I remain your brother Abdul. Catch you in the next one.